is about to find out when he covers Florida Atlantic in a little while. But yeah, I think that it's good to see a guy who's once again a sixth round pick that everybody had an opportunity to draft but didn't, and the Jaguars are smart enough to cash in on this guy before Minshew mania was even a thought. So,
well, here's a question for you, Scott. I've got to ask. This
sure.
weekend, obviously, in the next game, are you going to be donning a bandana? You know you want to.
You know, I'm not allowed to do it in the press box, okay? But not like I wouldn't have access to them if I want. Although maybe the Jags will surprise me with a gift in the media and give us those. But no, I don't think a bandana is what I'll be wearing this weekend. Although I don't have to because they're on the road in Charlotte. But no, I don't think so. You know, you got to remember, us writers are neutral, okay? And we're supposed to keep our mouth shut. You're not allowed to root in the press box, otherwise they'd throw you out anyways. And but no, I won't be wearing it. That's not part of the dress attire.
I'll see if I can convince you at some point in this season. I'm going to try.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll find a bandana, and then Lewis and I will
Send one my way. I'll wear one. I'm loving this guy. That's fun. I love the humility. I mean, it's an odd comparison, and they're two different kind of players, but the height and the physicality, he reminds me a little bit of Drew Brees. I know Drew Brees was a bit of a higher pick with the Chargers back in the day, but just as far as the professionalism that both seem to exude, I think Minshew and this is funny, this is the second time this has happened in Nick Foles, though he's been on two different ends of the coin. You know, the first time Wentz went down and he was the star, and now Foles goes down with the $88 million contract and Minshew's the star. But Foles is both times left with the uncertainty of where am I going next year. But I think if Minshew were to stick around and he were to continue, say they go 10-6 this year, you know, I don't know what they're going to do next season. Do you trade Nick Foles for salary relief and just give Minshew the starting job? And if you ever don an extension on him, I don't see him as the kind of player that's going to take that for granted. I think he is a 6th round, 178th overall pick. You know, I made note of Tom Brady comparison at once, considering both were 6th round picks. Antonio Brown was too, so that character clause doesn't always apply here. But I think Minshew is somebody who's not going to take this job for granted. We've seen him 7-1 TD to interception ratio in the 4 games that he's played. I think they found somebody who's a stabilizing force, and not only that, he's a good fan attraction.
Well, he is, and you make a lot of good points. I like how you reverse the roles, Lewis, okay, about how one ended up taking on. I get that, but I think right now, judging by what I've seen up in Jacksonville, that it's Foles' job when he gets back. However, if he's really rolling, they won't be looking to rush him back that quickly either. And Nick is smart enough. He's the guy that is humble enough to know, I'll carry a clipboard. I don't care. I'm getting paid good.
He has a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, he does. But you know what? Hold on. He's the ultimate team player is what he is. And that's all you can really ask for. Nowadays, you need 2 quarterbacks, as Foles found out in Philadelphia. So when you have a quarterback room with some cohesiveness and good camaraderie, then it's a win-win situation for all involved. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, right now, things are going good. The guys won a couple of games. And it's a good problem to have if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's for sure.
And we hope it continues.
Certainly, but I must admit that you mentioned, obviously, what are they going to do with regards to Foles? Are they going to eat his contract, or are they going to try and trade him in the future? But for me, at this point in time, at least, can you name a team that you look at and go, right, Foles would be an upgrade on their current QB? I don't think I can.
Well, but you know what, though? That's a good thing for us to talk about down the road. But if they got a great draft choice, but they just better know they have a good backup behind them. So, you know, so again, this is a 2-quarterback league. Let's not lose sight of that. So, you know, I'm with you guys, okay? I'd like to see Minshew go along for a while, but what happens if he gets into something? You're glad to have that veteran around. So
absolutely.
There's a lot of what-ifs that are involved with that. So I love this discussion amongst you guys. You research everything on the planet, and so do you. So I call it one of those TBD deals. So with that said, we have a few more minutes to go here. UK, let's talk about some other NFL moves.
Certainly. Well, yes, you know how much I love talking about moves. So, yes, the Pats have placed Gostkowski, their kicker, on IR, unfortunately, for the rest of the season. They have decided to sign former second-round pick with the Jets, Mike Nugent, 37-year-old veteran, to replace him for the rest of the season. However, it's clearly not a sure thing. They've also signed Young-Hoo Koo, former AAF player and also former Chargers kicker, to the practice squad, keeping a close eye on him as well, because he didn't look too good in the Chargers uniform, don't get me wrong, but he was decent in the AAF, and I still think he could have a shot taking that job from Nugent if he doesn't perform. But that's something to keep a close eye out on. The Chiefs have activated quarterback Mo Claiborne. They have a corresponding move. They've released defensive lineman Jeff Allen. Nothing enormously surprising there. Allen wasn't a big contributor. Claiborne will be a nice addition to that secondary. 49ers have re-signed wide receiver Jordan Matthews. That was a good move for them, and I'm sure that offense will be very happy to have him back. And they've, as a result, they've placed wide receiver Jalen Hurd on IR with a fracture. Unfortunately, he's out for the rest of this year. It's good that they're going to ease him back in. That's good to see that they're not rushing him back. So Jordan Matthews, I'm sure he won't have a huge impact on that offense, but he's a reliable pair of hands at the very least. And then finally, the Eagles have signed linebacker the former Eagles linebacker LJ Falk has signed for the Baltimore Ravens. Another little depth signing there. And another little one for you. The Texans have signed 38-year-old safety Mike Adams. The 15-year NFL veteran is signing for them as depth. It's just slightly surprising to see them pluck into free agency for someone quite so old in terms of just backup. It's not a surprising move.
Okay, and then now the one I'm really interested in talking about, okay? The Raiders versus the Bears in London. And let's go ahead and talk about the fact that the only reason that the Bears are playing in London and because the Raiders don't want to pay $500,000 in rent at the Oakland Coliseum, number one, since it's their final year. So why not go ahead and cash in with the Bears there to begin with? So I think when you talk about a financial standpoint, that how often would the Bears go to London? And let's not kid yourself, okay? The Jacksonville Jaguars, are able to turn a profit on the bottom line when they go to London. So, there are a lot of interesting storylines here, Anthony.
Certainly. Well, I would say, first of all, I think the Bears are going to be the favourites when it comes to hometown fans. Having been there obviously quite a few times, I'd say that there's quite a big Bears contingent in the UK after obviously the last sort of spell of popularity was in the sort of 80s and early 90s when they were... so that's going to be interesting to watch because, while the Raiders, I believe, are the home team, it does not necessarily matter at this point in time. When it comes to the London games, there's support from every single team in the league there. And I think the Bears will probably be the favourites. And I think they'll be the favourites not just with the fans, but with the media as well. It's the first of the international series. Bears are coming in through on a hot streak. Their defence is playing absolutely lights out. It's also worth mentioning that this will be the first game at Tottenham Hotspur's new stadium. It was purpose-built for the Premier League and the NFL. It's the first, to my knowledge, in the UK, which has a retractable soccer field and another also retractable NFL field underneath. So it's a purpose-built stadium for the NFL. Fun fact for any fans travelling over, there is a bar that runs the entire length of one side of the field, so go and have a look at that. But yes, it's going to be an absolutely fascinating game, and let's be honest, who doesn't want to wake up first thing in the morning to go and watch some Khalil Mack flattening David Carr?
Well, okay.
Derek Carr, sorry.
Well, that's okay. So you brought you gave me a loaded one here, so let me give you my feelings about that. Number one, Candy and I had an opportunity, not this past spring, but the spring before, to actually go to the Cardinals Stadium, and I love the way they took the field out there and let it get the sun, and then put it in for other shows. So now that you're telling me that this field has a football field / soccer field, that's pretty impressive. I can only imagine how much it costs to build that stadium with the ability to go on either surface. So that's pretty interesting stuff. So,
Yes, and it also has the whole stadium is especially built with the NFL in mind. So not only does it have the NFL field underneath the soccer field, but also, to my knowledge, as far as I'm aware, the locker rooms as well, they're actually only half used for the Premier League. There's a wall that's retractable to double them in size so they're big enough for teams. Because that's one problem we have when we were interviewing, say, the Vikings at Twickenham, which is a rugby stadium. The locker rooms simply aren't big enough in the UK for these 53-man squads.
Right. Well, that's true. So now you talked about the 85 Bears, the refrigerator, and all that stuff. So now we're on to the Chicago Bears for a moment. Okay. Why don't you elaborate, Anthony, about what type of a following they really have out in the UK?
Well, as far as it was funny. The first time I ever went there, I was still very early on in terms of my NFL experience, but you notice that there's an overwhelming majority in terms of certain fan bases. So obviously, recently there's a lot of Patriots fans there, but then there's a lot of Dolphins fans and Bears as well, because when the NFL was very popular in the UK before, it was sort of during the 80s, early 90s, when you also had Dan Marino coming in and you had the Bears, 85 Bears defense, that sort of thing.
Right.
Well, Jim McMahon era. So those sorts of teams are very popular in the UK and they have a big fan base over there. So you even notice that at every other game, because you only get a few games there per year, you you don't just get fans of either side there. You get fans representing all 32 teams there, so that in terms of the shouting, especially on third down and everything, it's completely all over the place. It's nowhere near like a US NFL stadium. You really get that home field advantage, but at the same time, the atmosphere is fantastic because everyone there is incredibly excited to be there, because you get people from all over Europe trying to get their way over to the UK just to watch this game. So the atmosphere is always absolutely electric. So it's going to be, it'll definitely be something to watch out for. But I have to admit, I would absolutely love it if William Perry suddenly turned up there, because he played for the London Monarchs right at the end of his career, so that would be magnificent.
So can you actually imagine what would happen if the Green Bay Packers ever stepped foot in London? Would they need about a 500,000 seat stadium for this thing?
They would be extremely popular, to put it lightly. I think the best game I can think of would be, say, a Packers-Dolphins game or something like that. It would be an unbelievable atmosphere in London. It would be absolutely fantastic. So let's only hope that as it continues to grow, that we get more games like that over there, because a lot of the games we've had in the UK have been somewhat meaningless, no real rivalries. But hopefully as it continues to grow, we'll get the bigger rivalries over there.
Yeah, well, number one, the Packers are never going to give up a home game at Lambeau Field to go there anyways. And I find it hard to believe that many teams would ever give up a home game when the Packers are there, especially in the interconference side, except for this rare exception, because the Bears are in a lame duck situation, and they're going to make money in London anyhow. But, yeah, nobody's giving up a Packer game at all, so I would wonder what the over-under would be in terms of when the Packers get overseas, because we know they're not going anywhere.
I can't imagine Aaron Rodgers. He was clearly unhappy with the preseason joint training camp, so I can only imagine his reaction to knowing he'd have to go to the UK, especially if it was instead of a Lambeau game. Well,
but here's the thing, okay? Interesting point, but who would be really interested in going to Winnipeg, Manitoba, out in Canada, in a 23,000 seat stadium? Nobody. So that wasn't handled right, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Again, it was another financial situation with the Raiders that they weren't paying $500K just to go ahead and play a preseason game in Oakland. You're talking about the games that they're giving up for rent. It's $1 million versus how much money they're really going to make. So, so there's a lot of interesting hypotheticals and so forth. All right, Lewis, we have another minute to go in the segment. Anything else you want to add before we bring on Mike Santos and you get your hockey lesson?
Yeah, I had a question for you, UK. With the Gostkowski injury, considering how consistent he's been ever since the Patriots have drafted him, and I believe that was back in 2006, don't you think this puts a lot of pressure on their offense to kind of live up more to the hype? I guess at this point they're not really going to settle for field goals. I think Brady's going to have to elevate his play to another level, and maybe he'll get a false sense of that against a very bad Redskins team coming up. But don't you think that puts more pressure on them, considering they don't have this kind of trust in this recently signed kicker, as opposed to Gostkowski, who's been so consistent, minus, say, a couple of miscues in the playoffs and going back to the regular season a couple of years ago?
I'd say certainly initially there's going to be a lot more pressure, not to mention the fact that obviously he's not, Mike Nugent hasn't been in the league overly recently, so he's going to have to prove himself as well and get back into the groove of things. But if we're being perfectly, he's with the perfect head coach for this situation, because he always manages to get the best out of players. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use him, if they push more on fourth down, if they really try and take a little bit of pressure off the kicker. But at the same time, he's just so experienced in the league. I'm sure his experience will keep him cool and calm. And then with Belichick in charge, I think they'll get the best out of him. So I can't imagine too much of a change after, say, 1 or 2 weeks back of training.
All right, that works for me. Obviously, Mike Santos is due in here. So thank you very much, Anthony. We'll talk pretty soon about next Tuesday's program. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, Anthony Wood, everybody. Obviously, we're waiting for Mike Santos to call. What are your thoughts about the Bears going to London, Lewis?
I don't know. It's cool. I mean, Soldier Field, one of the oldest fields in the NFL, if not the oldest. I'm not 100% sure, but it's kind of cool. Get more teams exposure in those parts of the country. Like they said, I hope the Fridge is going if his following, like you guys discussed, is that big, because that'd be a very nice thing for fans over there to see, considering how important I guess that 85 Bears team is.
All right, we have Mike Santos on the line. Mike, thank you for being on the Sports Exchange. Glad to have you back in the rotation.
Hi, Scott.
How are you? How was your day, Mike?
Everything was great.
All right, well, a lot of people out there have to understand that it's the opening weekend for the National Hockey League, so I couldn't think of a better person than to preview it than you, Mr. Santos. So fire away.